You spend your whole life chasing love, the butterflies, the romance, the companionship. But something shifts after 70. More and more seniors are choosing peace over partnership, and not because they're bitter, lonely, or broken. No, it's because they've finally learned what they need to feel whole. If you're wondering why your heart feels full even without someone beside you, this video might explain it. And if you feel conflicted, you're not alone. Let's talk about the truth most won't say out loud. If this message feels close to your heart, subscribe and join our warm community. Leave a comment. Your story might help someone else feel seen. We're here to age wiser, happier, and more peacefully together. They're tired of emotional labor, not of love, not of companionship, but of the exhausting work that often comes with it. For many seniors over 70, emotional labor has been a quiet, steady task stretched across decades. It's the unseen weight of managing others' feelings, smoothing over conflicts, keeping the peace in relationships, or being the emotional anchor for everyone else. Whether in marriages, raising children, or simply maintaining friendships, this work can add up, and it takes a toll. Now, at this stage in life, many begin to recognize that constant emotional labor is no longer sustainable. They're not bitter. They're not giving up. They're choosing rest. They've done the work. The late-night talks, the emotional compromises, the patience when tempers flared or needs went unmet. And now, they finally want and deserve a season of quiet. Peace begins to look more appealing than partnership, if that partnership demands more than it gives. Psychologists often speak about the emotional cost of relationships that are out of balance. When one person carries the emotional weight, constantly checking in, calming down, cheering up, it wears on the nervous system and chips away at joy. Seniors who've experienced this year after year often begin to crave something simpler: solitude or connection without obligation. This doesn't mean shutting people out. It means being selective with energy. At 70, energy is sacred. Many people start protecting it the way they protect their health, because it is health. Peace isn't just a preference. It's a form of wellness. Studies show that chronic stress, even emotional, raises blood pressure, weakens the immune system, and increases the risk of cognitive decline. So when someone at this age chooses peace, they're also choosing preservation. And for those who have spent their lives in caregiving roles, emotional or otherwise, there's often a deep desire to finally care for themselves, to sit with their own thoughts, to feel calm, not responsible, to read without interruption, to go to bed without unresolved tension. These things begin to matter more than companionship that comes with cost. So if someone over 70 says they're not looking for a relationship, don't assume they're lonely. Often, they're more whole than they've ever been. They've made peace with their past, released the need to fix or please, and stepped into a new kind of freedom. The freedom of not being everything for everyone else. The freedom of peace that doesn't need to be earned. That's not giving up on love. That's loving yourself enough to stop carrying what no longer fits. They've found self-love, finally. And not the kind sold in books or wrapped in cliches, but the quiet, grounded kind that comes from living through enough years, enough storms, and enough moments of doubt to finally understand who they are. For many seniors, especially past 70, this self-love is not flashy, it's steady, it's calm, and most of all, it's enough. After a lifetime of striving to be good enough, loved enough, wanted enough, something shifts. The need for external validation fades. Compliments are nice, but not necessary. Approval loses its grip, because now they know who they are. They've seen themselves survive loss, raise families, build lives, and face illness or disappointment, and come through stronger. That kind of resilience becomes its own reward. The mirror no longer reflects flaws. It reflects history, strength, and truth. This inner knowing makes peace more appealing than romance, not because love is no longer beautiful, but because it's no longer required to feel whole. Seniors often say they no longer chase relationships to fill a void, because the void is gone. They've filled it with their own wisdom, hobbies, faith, memories, and joy. And when self-love becomes your foundation, everything else is extra, not essential. Mental health professionals note that this kind of self-acceptance later in life is linked to lower rates of anxiety, stronger emotional regulation, and even better physical health. It also changes the way people relate to others. When you no longer need someone else to define your worth, relationships become freer, less pressured, and more authentic. And sometimes that means choosing solitude over partnership, not from fear, but from fullness. Peace becomes the reward for all the inner work. After years of wondering, am I enough? The answer becomes yes, without condition, without someone else needing to say it. That peace is deeply protective. It offers rest, ease, and space to simply be. Not to perform, prove, or pursue, just to be. So if someone over 70 chooses to live alone, travel solo, or spend quiet evenings reading or tending a garden instead of dating, it's not loneliness. It's often the first time in life they've felt completely at home within themselves. That's not a loss. That's a win. They're not rejecting love. They're just no longer dependent on it to feel complete. Love is welcome, but peace is non-negotiable. Because when you finally learn to love yourself, the noise of needing someone else fades, and the calm of being enough takes its place. They're done compromising their routines. And it's not about being stubborn. It's about finally having the freedom to live on their own terms. After 70, routines become more than daily habits. They're anchors. They bring structure, comfort, and a sense of control in a world that often feels unpredictable. And for many seniors, giving up that rhythm for someone else's preferences just isn't worth it anymore. Waking up when their body feels ready, not when an alarm or a partner's schedule dictates it. Eating what they enjoy when they want it, whether that's soup at 10 a.m. or cereal for dinner. Watching the shows they like, in silence or with the volume turned up, without negotiating over the remote. These may sound like small choices, but they add up to something powerful: autonomy. At this stage in life, autonomy isn't just a preference, it's a reward. Many seniors have spent decades bending around other people's needs, raising children, working demanding jobs, adapting to partners' wants and routines. And while those years had meaning, they also came with sacrifice. Now, with more time and fewer obligations, they're choosing to prioritize ease. And that ease, that consistency, that calm, feels like peace. Doctors who specialize in aging often talk about the mental and physical health benefits of a stable routine. Predictability helps regulate sleep, digestion, and mood. It reduces anxiety and confusion. It keeps energy levels steady and the mind focused. So when a senior chooses their rhythm and protects it, they're not being difficult. They're being wise. This doesn't mean there's no room for others. It means that anyone coming into their life must bring harmony, not disruption. Because the days of constantly shifting their schedule, meals, or environment to accommodate someone else are over. They've done that. Now the goal is living in a way that feels nourishing, not exhausting. And honestly, that kind of self-respect is something younger generations could learn from. Knowing your preferences, trusting your own pace, saying no to what doesn't feel good anymore. It's not selfish, it's earned. So if someone over 70 seems uninterested in dating or moving in with a partner, it's not always about heartbreak or fear. Often it's about preserving a lifestyle that finally feels right. A life where their mornings are slow, their meals are quiet, and their choices are their own. That kind of peace doesn't need explaining. It's not dramatic or loud. It's just steady and deeply satisfying. They've experienced loss, mimui, and gained perspective. When someone has lived through the deep ache of losing a spouse or partner, something inside shifts. It's not just grief, it's clarity. The kind of clarity that only comes after walking through heartache, sitting with absence, and learning to breathe again in a quieter world. For many seniors, especially those over 70, this kind of loss reshapes their relationship with love. It changes what they want and what they're willing to risk. Some realize they don't want to go through that kind of pain again. They've already said goodbye once, sometimes more than once. The thought of opening their heart only to possibly lose someone again feels like a weight they no longer want to carry. Others come to see life differently, not through bitterness, but through wisdom. They begin to understand that love isn't the only thing that makes life meaningful. Presence, peace, and purpose become more important than romance. A calm morning with a cup of tea, a walk without pressure, a quiet home filled with memory. These things start to matter more than companionship for its own sake. Therapists who work with seniors often note this change. After loss, people tend to become more selective about what they allow into their lives. They're less interested in filling space and more focused on protecting peace. The bar gets higher, not out of arrogance, but from lived experience. They've seen what love can give and what it can take away. This isn't fear, it's perspective. It's understanding that not all partnerships are comforting, and not all solitude is lonely. Many seniors report feeling more emotionally grounded after loss. They appreciate the small things. They laugh more freely. They cry when they need to without apology. And in that emotional honesty, many find a strength they didn't know they had. So when a senior chooses not to repartner, it's not always sadness or isolation. Often it's a deliberate choice to live the rest of their days on their own terms, with time for reflection, with space for healing, with no pressure to perform or please. They've loved, they've lost, and they've learned. And now, peace feels more valuable than potential. Stillness feels more nourishing than starting over. Love hasn't disappeared. It's just taken a different form. It lives in memories, in gratitude, in the gentle way they care for themselves now. And that kind of peace? It's not a substitute for love. It's what love, at its best, was always supposed to lead to. They're focused on legacy, not romance. After 70, the heart often turns its attention from falling in love to leaving something behind. It's not that affection becomes meaningless. It's that purpose begins to matter more. Seniors start thinking about the mark they'll leave, not just the hand they'll hold. At this stage in life, legacy isn't just about money or inheritance. It's about presence, character, the stories passed down, the lessons taught, the values quietly modeled over time. Many seniors feel a strong pull to invest in their grandchildren, their community, or their faith. That's not a rejection of companionship. It's a deeper call to create meaning that outlives them. Relationships with younger generations often take center stage. Reading to a grandchild, teaching a skill, or simply being a stable, loving presence. These moments become more rewarding than romantic pursuits. There's fulfillment in being remembered, not for passion, but for guidance, not for charm, but for consistency. Some seniors channel this energy into creativity. Writing, gardening, painting, volunteering, whatever keeps the spirit active and the mind purposeful. They know that time is more precious now, and many choose to spend it building things that matter, things that will last. Romance, in comparison, can feel fleeting, especially when it might ask them to compromise that focus. Spirituality also becomes a guiding force for many. Questions about peace, forgiveness, and eternity begin to outweigh the desire for companionship. There's a quiet satisfaction in nurturing the soul rather than seeking new emotional entanglements. For some, this is about faith. For others, it's simply about living each day with more intention and less distraction. Professionals in aging and mental health have observed that seniors who feel connected to a purpose tend to be happier, healthier, and more resilient. That sense of direction, knowing they're contributing to something beyond themselves, can be more sustaining than romantic love, especially if love would disrupt that clarity. So when a senior says they're not interested in dating again, it's often not sadness talking. It's priority. It's the realization that their time, energy, and heart are better spent on the legacy they're still building, on the lives they're quietly shaping, on the peace they're working to leave behind. And there's beauty in that, in choosing to be remembered not for who they loved, but for how they loved, generously, patiently, and without distraction. That kind of legacy lasts far longer than flowers or fancy dinners. It lives on in the hearts they've touched. And for many, that's the only kind of forever they're still reaching for.